I guess I'm going to share for 15 minutes. I'm an addict and alcoholic. I'm Steve.
Steve.
I have alcoholism. Do know Chris for a long time. I'm in Pittsburgh. I live in Los Angeles. I'm here working. It's 10 o'clock. Well, right now it's actually almost 10:30. And I'm here for 4 months working on something, and I'm grateful to be here. I'm going to read. I was reading this thing that's saying, stick to the topic and make a topic and all that. So I'm going to read from the book, and I don't really understand the whole idea of someone sharing and then coming up with a completely different topic. I hear that all the time in meetings. I never really understand it. Topic is going to be continued surrender, and that's what I'm going to share about myself. I'll give you a little bit of statistics. My sobriety date is August 14th, 1991. I have a sponsor. My sponsor has a sponsor. I've had a sponsor for most of my sobriety. Not all of it, just to be, honest. And I have 3 sponsees. I've taken the steps more than once, quite a few times, gone through them with different sponsors. I've had this sponsor now for over 10 years. I just wanted to say that I'm grateful for the program, and it's changed my life. So I'm gonna read a couple of things from. I'm gonna read out of the 12 and 12. I'm gonna read 3 things out of the 12 and 12. Chris knows I'm very literature oriented. The program's in the book. It's not in the meetings. That's how it was taught to me. The meetings are for fellowship. Meetings are for the language of the heart and for relating, but programs in the book and passed on from man to man, since this is a men's meeting, or woman to woman. And that's really what it's about, is taking the steps in your life and finding a way to get out of our problems. So in the foreword of the book, I hadn't read this part of the book for many, many years. I had been here probably for about 8 years before someone took me through the book the way I do it now. I started at the forward, and it says very clearly on the second paragraph of the forward, this third paragraph, AA's 12 steps are a group of principles, spiritual in their nature, which if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink, which is definitely what I want, and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole, which is what I want in my life. I hadn't really read that book in that way for my own life. The other thing I'm going to read is, step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. I actually was not looking at Chris when I said that. I think that my experience with this step is that we talk about powerlessness a lot, but we don't talk about the unmanageability. That's really part of this, what this working this step is about. So the first line in this is, who cares to admit complete defeat? Definitely not me, but that's what this requires. Practically no one, of course. Every natural instinct cries out against the idea of personal powerlessness. It is truly awful to admit that, glass in hand, we have warped our minds into such an obsession for destructive drinking that only an act of providence can remove it from us. And then the last, in the end of this step 1, talks about hitting bottom. And in my experience, hitting bottom is the thing that enabled me to become able to come in here. And if I don't remember my bottom and understand what my relationship is to my bottom, I'm not going to have much of a chance here. So why all this insistence? This is the second to last paragraph in step 1 out of the 12 and 12 on page 24. Why all this insistence that every AA must hit bottom first? The answer is that few people would sincerely try to practice the AA program unless they have hit bottom. For practicing AA, remaining 11 steps means the adoption of attitudes and actions that almost no alcoholic who is still drinking can dream of taking. Who wishes to be rigorously honest and tolerant, who wants to confess his faults to another and make restitution for harm done, who cares anything about a higher power, let alone meditation and prayer. Who wants to sacrifice his time and energy in trying to carry A's message to the next sufferer? No. The average alcoholic, which is me, self-centered in the extreme, doesn't care for this prospect unless he has to do these things in order to stay himself alive. I think Chris has heard me say this, it's right out of the big book. I come here by circumstance, not by virtue. The circumstances of my life was that I drank and used and fucked my life up so that I had to come here and learn this way of life. It's not some virtuous thing. We're now on spiritual, and there's a reason for it. I came here ass out, like everybody else, and I have to remember that with some humility, that there's a reason why I'm coming here. Why am I still coming here with this time sober? The other thing I learned from going to the book this way is I have to also find out what's wrong with me. What alcoholism is for me now in my life, how it manifests in my life in the day that I'm in, and how can I apply the program. And it's not some sort of magic that's going to happen miraculously by one day something is going to change. I think that when I first came in, I thought that AA was going to help me to not make mistakes, to not do certain things, and that I would somehow change in this miraculous way. And I realized over time that that's really not what's happened for me. I made a lot of mistakes. I've had to face a lot of facts in my own life, and I'm trying to remember what time I started. Chris, do you remember? Because I'm reading this thing that's saying, be careful with my time. I have 7 minutes left?
I'm timing. Okay, no, you've got about 10. I'll give you the 3-minute warning.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's like the miraculous recuperative power of my ego. What happens is here, I come in here, pass out, asking for help, and then within 30, 90, 6 months or whatever, my ego starts to recover, and I start to judge, and I start to actually question the program that's saving my life. And I think that's what's happened with many of the men that I've sponsored, that all of a sudden I have something to say about the thing that had saved my life in the beginning. And the topic of continued surrender is like, how do I keep teachable? How do I stay in a space where I can still take direction from my sponsor, listen to people like Chris or many other of the men that I know for a long time, and trust what they have to say, and try to listen to it with an open mind, not a liberal mind, but an open mind. What I found out with time sober is that I really didn't have an open mind. The sponsor I had at the time pulled my covers and said, Steve, I don't think you're open-minded at all. I think you're liberal-minded. You don't care what people wear or who people fuck or what sexual preference they have. So you think you're open-minded, but really you're pretty closed-minded. And it was true, but he pointed out that you were liberal-minded. And I had to go about figuring out for myself what that meant, and asking the power greater than myself to help me with that. I'm here I took this job in Pittsburgh, and when I was leaving, I got into a lot of fear over the fact that I decided, I'm going to leave my family and my home and my kid and my wife, and I really realized, I I got in the plane and I remember thinking, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this? I could probably get some work in Los Angeles. And once again, I just had to really rely on the program and know that I'm here for a reason, have some faith that things are going to be okay, know that I can, put one foot in front of the other, the same thing that we all talk about, day after day. One of the things that I deal with mainly now is this idea of, and Chris has heard me talk about this a lot, I guess, with sobriety, with time sober, what am I still doing in AA? Why do I still go to AA meetings? Why do I sponsor guys? Because there are plenty of people that don't do that, and with time they kind of flitter away. And what am I doing? And what's my purpose here? And what is alcoholism to me now? Because I haven't had a drink in a long time. And for me, how it was described to me is that I'm unsatisfied a lot. I find fault and I have an unsatisfied mind. And without the use of God and these principles on my own, without practicing some of this in my life, I get pretty negative pretty quickly. And I kind of spin or cycle down into this self-talking mind, this mind that kind of talks to myself about things, and it talks with authority. And it can start as simple as this, like one of you guys, I see this room, I don't really see what you guys are really, I see there's a whole bunch of guys there, but I don't really know. But if I'm in the room, what I might do is something like I might see someone walk in the room and to myself think, who the fuck is this guy? Like, and for no reason. Like, my mind on its own, that is exactly what it'll do. And I don't correlate that with alcoholism in my life now. That it takes me out of the moment and it makes me start, it starts to work, make me talk to myself with authority and speaks with a lot of vigor about things that I have no business talking about. What I've really realized is that once I become mindful of that and when I start acting with the principles of the program, I start to I'm able to notice that I'm doing that. And what's happened over time is I can bring God into it most of the time now. And what I was told to do is go into a meeting instead of judging and looking around and judging the speaker or judging the people or judging whatever, because I think most of us do that from time to time, is try to do a listening meditation. Or actually actively try to listen to everyone and listen to what everyone has to say with an open mind and ask God to help me do that, because on my own I can't do that. So I really don't have that much more to say. I'm pretty tired. It's after 10 o'clock. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful that Chris asked me to talk. The other thing I want to talk about is speaking to the fact that I have a good life. I have a good life today. What I noticed is I don't have a perfect life, don't get me wrong, but I have to speak to that. I have to speak to the gratitude and the good things in my life, and not just always focus on the negative and focus on the problem. So that was another thing that is one other thing I want to end with, is that the idea of talking about the problem too much energizes the problem. Sometimes I have to get to the solution much quicker, and I'm grateful to be here. Thanks.